All right, let's get this started. So just a few housekeeping notes for folks. We plan on being here for about 30 minutes, so we'll go through a few slides and the demo, and then we'll have a Q&A after. So if there are any questions that folks have, feel free to put them in the Zoom chat, or you can always email us to at support@pomerium.com. If we run out of time, we will obviously follow up on email and get you answers to those questions. Um, all right, let's begin. So in terms of agenda today, for folks who might not know Fleet or might not know Pomerium or might not know both, we'll do a quick overview. We won't go too deep, but if you have any questions about either company or our products, once again, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A, and we can obviously follow up with you after. But what we're really here to do is talk about the integration and show you how that works with a live demo environment. So that'll be the focus today, and then give some updates on what we've already put on the roadmap for what's next, but would love ideas, or if there are other things that kind of come to mind that would work for your environment. Obviously happy to take those either through email or through the Q&A. So let's get started. Before we jump into the product, I think one of the things we hear a lot about, especially from our customers and just from being in the market and meeting folks at trade shows, et cetera, is this idea of zero trust being kind of watered down or meaningless. And really, if you look at the NIST documents, this idea of zero trust is that no resource is inherently trusted, and credentials aren't all. Just authentication is not enough. Authentication alone is not enough to access any internal or enterprise resources. And so, we actually believe that we believe in zero trust, and we believe that zero trust architecture means more than just least privilege access. It means no implicit trust. And so what that entails for implementing that is things like continuous verification that integrate identity, context, device posture, and also are evaluating and reevaluating it on every single request. And so that's kind of the bedrock in our opinion of building a truly zero trust model. And so with native integration that we built with FleetDM, what we can actually do is bring in real-time device posture, and you can customize those policy settings with Pomerium to evaluate whether or not every single request from a specific person on a specific device should be allowed or not allowed, and that's kind of what we're excited to show here today. So for folks unfamiliar with FleetDM, it's a cross-platform open source device management service. It really works for like it says on the tin, cross-platform. So I think you'll see MDM solutions that might only be Android, or might only be iOS, or might only be Windows, or might only serve one platform or another. But FleetDM is a great fit, we think, for companies looking for more flexible and modern MDM solutions that also happen to be super highly scalable. And so whether it's a few hundred, or what we've seen in some customer deployments is tens of thousands, plus fleet being managed through FleetDM. It allows IT and security teams to manage and monitor those endpoints, and does it in a way that also helps nudge users to get into compliance with security policy. So you can set critical, what you'll see in the demo too, is you can kind of set these critical policies that you can just fail people immediately. Say something like antivirus is out of date, or they have a active CVE or something present on some software they're running on their device. Or you can have it be more of a nudge. So something like, hey, look, update your OS to the latest version in the next 14 days. We know you're probably doing work right now. We're not going to force you to do it right now, but do it before we fail you. And so it kind of gives you that flexibility. Obviously, it lets you manage all of your endpoints in real time. And then in terms of how it's built on OS query. So you can pretty easily and robustly query your entire fleet. And I think that's kind of what makes it great for folks to use, as we've seen, because it's open source, vendor neutral platform. And so we will kind of show how our two products work together here shortly. For Pomerium, if you're not familiar with Pomerium, we are um, a layer 7 reverse proxy at most basically, at our core. We enable clientless, context-aware remote access. And for our whether it's users, home labs, hobbyists, folks like that, or it's large enterprises, people really find value in it because it's much easier and much more scalable to manage than something like a client or an agent or a VPN, something that has to be, installed and maintained and everything across all of your devices. So Pomerium really enables you to secure all of your sensitive internal resources, whether it's databases, legacy servers, or legacy applications. It's on-premise, bare metal, cloud, however you are kind of operating or running, Pomerium can actually help secure those environments. And we have customers who deploy it globally at edge in front of their own data centers. We have customers who deploy it just in front of things like GKE or in front of AWS or something where they might be developing fully kind of in a cloud native way. And then, similar to Fleet, Pomerium is flexible enough to scale to tens of thousands of routes. So for any number of users. And it really, I think if you haven't used Pomerium, it really clicks once you actually set it up and your users just start navigating to a URL and kind of going on with their day. And they might not even be aware that they are, being protected by Pomerium, but it's so simple and so easy and so fast to use for end users and really takes the friction away of having to use a VPN. So why do we put this integration together? So as we mentioned, I think zero trust is really at the core for us here is with this integration, we're enabling you to continuously verify identity, context, and device posture before granting access to any of your resources that this sits in front of. So your access isn't based just on where you are on the network, like a VPN, for example, but or a single kind of authentication check one time at login. But instead, we're checking and then rechecking this on every single request, your identity, your context, your device posture. And it's really going by that core principle of no implicit trust is ever granted. And so now we can use identity. We can bring in, this device posture as well. We can always bring in other context to things like from your HR systems, or groups in Google Workspace or Microsoft AD or something like that. And so for existing Fleet users, Pomerium really allows them to have that enforcement mechanism for those device policies. So not only can you go and you set up those policies like you'll see in a minute here in Fleet, or in FleetDM, but you can then use Pomerium to say, hey, based on those policies, what do we actually do? Do we deny access? Do we allow it? And so we'll see how, using Pomerium's policy language, you can support, in this case, obviously FleetDM, but really it's so extensible, you can support any third-party context. And we built this relatively quickly within the last month or so. We built and then started refining and taking more suggestions from customers on what features they want to see. So you can really see how having that extensible policy language lets us incorporate really any context that you want to use. And then adding that into the authorization requests and making that relatively straightforward. And so that's for Fleet users. For Pomerium users, obviously, like we've been mentioning, or I've been mentioning, we now have that device compliance as part of the authorization request that goes beyond just the native like WebAuthn that we have today for devices, but uses really granular and really fine-grained, like really granular authorization requirements that Fleet can provide. So we're excited about that. We're excited to kind of show off what those contextual signals are that you can use. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we hope that the two together will just give our customers a more secure, more policy-driven access control to secure their environment. So the benefit of this is, hopefully fewer or no incidences of non-compliant devices accessing your enterprise resources. So that's kind of the short and sweet of it there. I'm going to pass it over to Dennis here to take over for the demo. So give us a second while we switch screens. And as a reminder, you can always ask us questions, or you can always send us an email at support@pomerium.com if the Q&A box isn't working for you. So let me just pass this over. And stop my screen share. And then Dennis, let me know if you are able to screen share or if you're not. Cool.
Yeah.
I can see your screen.
Perfect.
And
Can you go? So Pomerium is identity a proxy. So it's a level 7 proxy that also enforces authentication and authorization. So we have a demo here of Pomerium Enterprise Console, which is a multi-user self-service console where like I created a bunch of routes for today's demo. And it allows you to do the self-service while being within the hierarchy of other enforced policies. And you can see like what the requests are happening with your routes, and you can also define the policies that apply to those routes. So for this demo, I will allow anybody who is signed in with Pomerium.com account to access the routes in my FleetDM namespace. And I have some regular applications like a typical web application, Grafana. I open it up. Grafana learns what is my identity. I can navigate it. And we also support TCP, what we call TCP routes. Like I defined Postgres, for example. The way it works is with the help of a little desktop application that makes a secure tunnel between your local machine, and Pomerium proxy, and then the upstream TCP application, a Postgres database in this case. So I'm able to use my desktop tools to securely connect to this to those applications, and just need to find it. Yeah, and it opened my database client, so I can pull some data in, right? So now what happens is that this just works through the browser and it's all nice, but this particular machine is actually not part of the corporate fleet of devices. So if I go to the FleetDM, which is open source mobile device management, I have another machine that is actually enrolled uh, into the MDM, meaning I can use my corporate MDM policies to push certain restrictions on the device itself. So I just moved to another screen where I have a virtual machine running that is actually my machine enrolled into the MDM. And if you're not familiar with MDM, it actually allows you to put a lot of restrictions. For example, here I disabled screenshotting on my machine. So if I try to run screenshot here, nothing happens because this machine is under my control. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that my sensitive routes like Grafana, Postgres, Kubernetes API, SSH hosts, they are only accessible from hosts that are under corporate device management. So what I will do is I will go to my policies and I will open, for example, this policy that I defined. And this policy says that we will deny access to any machine that is under FleetDM management and it doesn't have, it is not enrolled into the MDM. So if I will make this policy enforced, meaning it will apply to all routes within my namespace and save it, uh, my route opened in this machine that is inside the MDM. It continues to work, right? But now I will switch to another screen where I had my host previously and see the Grafana no longer works on my machine that is not in the MDM. And if I refresh the screen, it will tell me exactly why, because this device must be enrolled into MDM. And similarly, like no database connections are possible anymore. So what we did right now is we restricted the access to sensitive routes only to devices that are part of the mobile device management. So now we can start and maybe apply more restrictions to this. So we can do um, a requirement saying that the antivirus must be healthy. And where those requirements are coming from, they're coming from policies in the FleetDM itself, where you can define a bunch of really policies, and you can define your own, and there are a lot of options. All basically, you can reference anything that is exposed by OS query. So my host is in general in a good standing. It has all policies are checking, so it will be allowed. Um, so I will go ahead and make this also an enforcer policy. But what if my host, for example, is subject to some CVE that we just discovered? Maybe there is some vulnerability, and let's take a look. Are we subject to any vulnerability? Yeah, there is like curl vulnerability, CVE 8096, and we can actually go and reference this CVE our in our FleetDM enforcement. So when we put it here, we will now save the policy. And now, even on my machine where I had it running under MDM, because I now enforce. Let me just check that I actually enforced it. Yeah, I need to start enforcing it. And now on my machine where which is known to be subject to this CVE, if I try to connect, I can no longer connect until I mitigate this CVE. So this is it in a nutshell, and I will hand it over to Nikhil back.
Thanks, Dennis. One question, Dennis, that came in while you were showing that was, are we adding identity proxies before the routes?
Pomerium is the gateway that you put between your browser and your upstream applications. So this is how it works. It provides TLS termination. It provides verification of client certificates from the browsers, and it also talks with MTLS to the upstream applications as a gateway. And you can have one uh, Pomerium gateway for your entire organization, or you may have them distributed based on like locations, one in London, another in New York, um, and or like per Kubernetes cluster, it's all up to the organization IT how you deploy.
Cool. Let us know if you have any additional questions on that. And thanks again, Dennis, for the demo. That was great. Um, Let me turn my screen sharing back on. So just a few things as we wrap up, and if you have questions, let us know. Um, the obviously, yeah, hopefully the demo was helpful in making it in a bit more real. But just to summarize, and there were some of the benefits of the integration, those enforcement mechanisms through the Pomerium policy language of your FleetDM MDM device policies. That's really what we're showcasing here is how to kind of bring those two together, enable those real-time device posture checks, and then the results of that being using all of that to achieve true zero trust architecture. So every single I thought it was cool. I hadn't seen that on the Grafana dashboard where it just every single little widget just immediately shut down once you updated the policy. All those requests were immediately denied. So you can see it works in real time. The demo is very much a working environment. So if folks have additional questions or want to do an additional one-on-one demo, we can obviously show in even more granularity, potentially even to your environment, how that would look or how that would deploy for you. And then in terms of some of the stuff that we're already putting on the roadmap, some things like a deny screen and integrating more of the compliance kind of countdown clock and self-remediation steps from Fleet into the Pomerium deny screen. So if you use Pomerium today, you might be familiar with this deny screen. It does allow you in Pomerium Enterprise to give some more custom explanations. And so we're working on integrating, that was a ask from a customer, is working on integrating some of that into the deny screen itself from Fleet, some of the options from Fleet into there. And then access support, more CLI-based access support will be coming as well. And so that is it for the kind of pre-planned section of the webinar today. If you have any questions or haven't, let me see if I can pull up the Q&A here. And or if other stuff comes to mind, obviously feel free to email us at support. I'm gonna stop my screen for a second. I think that's what's blocking the Q&A. Oops. Cool. A couple more questions. And Dennis, maybe these are best for you to answer. So one question came through, is Pomerium retrieving FleetDM's device posture data through the FleetDM REST APIs out of band?
We continuously query the FleetDM status, and it really depends on how large your FleetDM installation is. In our teeny tiny installation, it's been refreshed like once a minute. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure what they mean under out of band. Yeah, but it is it's a concept we have called external data sources in enterprise Pomerium, where you join various signals, external signals. So like it could be device posture data from FleetDM. It could be even we had some users who restricted their internal application access based on work hours. Like if you're actually not on duty according to the HR system, you're denied access. What else? Like for example, here we have Tor exit nodes restricted. Yeah, so you can blend a lot of various signals into Pomerium policy decisions.
Yeah, I think there's also a link provided to the FleetDM Zero Trust attestation guide that they wrote. I think it works fairly similarly in terms of how we're using it. I think in the example that Fleet kind of built, I think they're talking about how they pull information in to Fleet to then kind of enable zero trust. And I
All
guess
right.
in this case, we're kind of acting as the broker, right? Like we're acting as the Fleet in this example.
I think there is like a little confusion around terms.
Mm.
Like if you enroll devices into MDM, some devices like Mac devices can report can attest their status to the MDM server. So FleetDM is the MDM server. But on top of being MDM server, it also collects a lot of information, additional information about the device, such as software that is installed and all kinds of checks that you can express with OS query. And we are able to uh, address any policy that you define in the FleetDM based on this OS query data that may also include, yes, some of the device attestations sent by the operating system.
Cool. Last question that came up is in terms of how we're talking to FleetDM. So the question is, can you share more information about how Pomerium talks to FleetDM?
Yeah, this integration is enabled by two things. First, we are pulling the FleetDM REST API for the host information and policies, and we also query the status of client certificates on the device. So we have a part of this integration. Fleet integrates with the private CA, private certificate authority, that provisions each device with the client certificate. And this client certificate has a unique fingerprint that we are aware of, because the browser must present it in order to access any of the Pomerium routes. So the way it works under the hood is that we look at the unique client certificate presented by the browser device, and then we also look into uh, the device association that FleetDM reports. So we map this information, and based on that, we are able to build policies that relate to FleetDM policies for that particular device. That makes sense. Oh, Nikhil, you're muted.
Yep. Yeah, perfect. We're at time. If folks have other questions, thanks for asking those ones. If you have other questions, obviously feel free to email us at support@pomerium.com. And otherwise, we'll get this recording out to you in the next day or so. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want more of a customized demo for your environment. Thanks for joining, and we'll talk soon. Bye. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Bye.